to the Martin Luther King Outpatient Center and to the King Drew campus. My voice has been one that is championing health equity for a community that has been marginalized, which is why our rates of COVID, diabetes, and other chronic illnesses have been so high because the facilities, the resources, the access upon demand, availability for self help and to have mind, body, spirit available has not been available. I developed a proposal for a Coretta Scott King Wellness Center to be a part of the broader expansion of the MLK Outpatient Center and healthcare campus improvements that you all can see if you go into that Willowbrook area. I hope all of you will stand with me in solidarity that the Coretta Scott King Wellness Center will become a reality, will be an inspiration for all women, but especially for women of color. Thank you.
How can we reach you, and can you tell us more about?
Sure. You can reach me through Lynn Randall's Institute of Genetic Medicine organization, and then she will contact me directly.
So, Lynn Crandall, we're doing a Hollywood duo.
1992.
Pardon?
Where were you at?
Oh my goodness.
Where were you in 1992? Oh,
1992, I was living in Chicago at the time, and I was operating an environmental consulting business as a small business association contractor. My parents were in LA at the time, and I can remember hearing on television and as reporting in the media what was going on, what happened with Rodney King and the resulting riots and uprising. I don't want to call it a riot, but just, how all of the energy just bubbled up into their being.
5 minutes, and I'll get right to you.
The community reacting in a way that was promoted in a variety of different fashions to the broader world media. And I was concerned about the community, concerned about my people. My heart was broken to see a brother being beaten down in the street by the police, this unarmed man. And I stood in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in Chicago that have a history of solidarity, of uplifting the community and of resistance. And I want to assure you that there were efforts going on around the country, and I bore witness to what was going on in Chicago. And through my parents and friends, I was able to stand in prayer and hold a vision for what I hope to continue to see in Los Angeles, which is what we're doing today. People coming together and knowing that their individual voices, their meetings of whatever size, can just lead to a bubbling up. These are seeds that we're planting, and they will grow. They have grown, and they will continue to grow. So let's continue to water them with our voices and with our work. There's no effort that is too small. So as long as two or more are gathered, all things are possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was hoping that Wayne Lyons sees Empire for Youth in
children so that all children have sound language skills and the ability to work together in a democratic society, just as you, Gabriel, explained, and you did such a good job. Music and the harmony that it brings collective people together, irrespective of language.
Yeah. Or age, or race, or class, and any of these things can be the separating factors. We shared a scripture earlier, Isaiah 61, and we want to look at Isaiah 58 before we leave, because some of the things that separate us are so trivial, you know, so trivial. And we want to say thank you for having the Living Well Tour at Institute of Genetic Medicine on several occasions to celebrate the Neighborhood Council Summit. Stan Jones wanted to be here today, and also for making a space for Daniel Miklowash. Daniel Miklowash is a LA-based artist, and this is one of his works called Miss Lamert Park. Again, so we use the conversation to talk about gentrification, to talk about zoning and redistricting, and you'll see that she has the Vision Theater in her eyes. Big up to Michael Rindler and E7 Architecture, who working with young people at LA Trade Tech to design the Crenshaw line, and people like Brad Carson and Jobs Create Peace, making sure that folks coming back into society from incarceration have opportunities, that we're not locked out, you know. And so it is all connected. The art's telling a story to get the funding where we need so that people are doing meaningful contributions to the building of our community.
And I love this so much because it's got vision in her eyes, and vision without work is a dream. Work without vision is drudgery, but vision that sees all of us working together as a global family, that can save the climate and all of us.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Well, tell us
That's
more
what we're doing, y'all.
As we end up, Lynn, tell us about the gallery. Please let our audience know about the gallery.
Well, the gallery is located on the USC Keck Medical Campus, and it uses science and art to show both sides of our intellectual and data-seeking brains and our bodies and our need for health. And this, I think, shows a perfect example of what the gallery does. The ideal of California and all the fruit and food it can grow, and the African-American man helping the Japanese man in the 1992 riots. And you've got the ideal and you've got the real of the fire and the Holocaust that we are creating because we're not doing what Gabriel said we need to do, which is work together and help our politicians be the public servants to the people. This is a government of, by, and for the people. We own the house. We give our existing resources, manpower, and connections to our public officials so that together we can live more like this and less like this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We really appreciate that.
Now, Brother Irvin, you've been at the Institute of Genetic Medicine. You've had opportunity to see the space and be in the space, and you also very instrumental in youth development and the redirecting. Great experience. Talk to us about Brothers, Sons, and Cells. Where were you in 1992?
1992, I wasn't even born yet.
What do you know about 1992 being in
I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I think my dad was dancing with some stackers, you know, like back in the day type of status, you know. But yeah, that's about it. My name is Irving Alvarez, and I'm with Brothers on Cells Coalition. And yeah, what we do with Brothers on Cells Coalition is that we stop the criminalization of young and boys of men of color through the way of education of the school to prison pipeline, and also through fellowships, and also through counseling and different methods too. Yeah, so that's basically it. Me, myself, what I do with BSS internally is I am the co-director of the fellowship. So yeah, that's what I do with Liquan Muhammad. He's based out of Watts. And yeah, just trying to leave the world a better place with just stopping the incarceration rates with youth and young men of color, you know.
So you just learned today that in 1992, and hopefully folks will go over to Ted Watkins and celebrate with that game Truce, that was real. Have you in your organizing heard conversation on why the truce didn't maintain, how it's being reestablished?
Yeah, actually, with the manager at the time being David Turner, we learned about the history of it and also what led up to it, and also the events that happened in those days too. If I'm not mistaken, a girl got killed too a couple of days before that, or leading up to that, I believe. And she got killed over a drink, something like that.
Yeah, LaQuanta Hawkins.
Yeah, LaQuanta.
Natasha Harlot, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, we're learning about that. I don't remember names to be specific, but yeah, just learning about that history. And it just wasn't one incident. It was the little things that build up, to the climax that it did. So yeah, I think it's great history. I love the fact that I live in the historic areas of South Central, where the Black Panthers used to run a lot of it. So I feel very proud to be living in that area and still be helping the local economy, because I feel like now that people see what things are worth, they want to move into certain areas. Like, as we can see, the bridge being built in between the Fashion District and Boyle Heights. It's like gentrification, but yet again, as we see, it's also going to benefit the community, less pollution, and also we're going to see more green spaces, I think, open up and share with other people. Yeah, so I think that's something amazing to look forward to, just living in a place where you've seen a lot of mayhem, and now you see peace, you see people like this congregating and sharing space.
Love the way you take care of the community. Thank you for the work that you do in Los Angeles.
And definitely, we're going to be opening up the fellowship to anyone in Los Angeles area. It's going to be ready next month. So as soon as we get our documentation, so just follow the Living World Tour, and I'm going to send it over a survey. And yeah, we're looking for youth that are 17 to 24 years old that are interested in finding out more about, the school pipeline, and also how to use data. So, when we go up to the state, when we go up to the board of supervisors, when we go up to the commissioners, we know how to speak and how to use data, to back up our findings.
How can people reach your organization?
Brothers Themselves is actually on Instagram, and we also have a website, Brothers Themselves.
How's that spelled for those people that aren't able to hear you clearly?
Yeah. So I'll give it to you so we can type it up.
Yeah.
So you can press on the link right there on the chat. So I'll put it in right now so you can go on it.
Well,
and
actually,
also we're on Instagram. We're on YouTube too.
Okay.
But I would advise you to go to YouTube so you can see a little preview of what we do. Yeah, so we're part of the Dodgers organization, so the Dodgers Foundation, and also the NFL Foundation. So yeah, we're just out there trying to lead to a better place.
Well, we're doing multiple streams, so make sure you get
love what you said about taking care, like growing food and stuff like that. One of the things that was recognized after the uprising, loss of small grocery stores, and what's coming up now are community gardens. As we circle around, Brother Connor Fitz, artist, and recent California, correct? 1992, but super engaged with community and art. What do you remember about 1992?
And where were you?
Yeah, from where you were.
And who were you? Let's start there.
So yeah, who I am, my perspective. Grew up in born in
Erwin,
Truce
can you hold this a little closer to him so he can hear?
My name is Connor Fitzpatrick, and I'm an artist, activist, scientist. I don't really remember anything being told in the news, like media-wise, because it seems to have been a mainly American thing, an American issue. But I, from my own research, it does seem like just a horrible chapter in the history of this city. This city, to me, has always been a very dream-like space. And when I came here, then it was only then that you really see on the streets like a lot of the legacies of suffering, the aftermath of injustice, apathy towards one another, fellow man. It's only up in the Hollywood and the very produced areas that you get LA to be righteous place at all. So that's what I remember from 1992. I can't speak anything more than that.
Now, I want to ask you and the whole group, because just recently people are challenging, people are, suspect of the movement that has woken up a lot of people in terms of consciousness and re-education in the schools. And I'm talking about Black Lives Matter. And recently in the news, it came out that they have property in the areas that you're talking about. And I know the circles I've been in, I've heard a lot of criticism, and I met Medina Abdullah early in the Black Lives Matter movement. She knows that, I'm with them 100%. She also knows that as a man of Christ, my slogan is all lives matter before the retort. Christ loves us all, coming from that perspective. But I don't see a problem with organizers. To me, it's like the slap in the face, right? We're recognizing the need for reconciliation. People talk about reparations. And then the organizers that are in the trenches that are doing that work, I know I talk to them, I'm working with them, and often it's like, because we've done the work for free for so long, it's not about the money. But in terms of, we're always talking about where Rose is going from concrete, and we want to be able to grow our young people from good soil, and good soil takes resources. And so when we think about, like, the people donated, and then as an organization, do you have to? I'm just torn on that, and really asking it to the group, like, do you think that's a valid judgment? That an organization shouldn't get property in the best area for the organizers, if that's the case, or for a retreat for the organizers after they're working, for months, that they can go to a place that I'm wondering.
So I've never really worked as an organizer or any kind of in an organization. I just represent myself, and all opinions expressed are my own. But I would say that if I had been in an organization for that long and kind of had the perspective of, of those people, that I probably would do a similar thing. Like, humans we're born into sin, but it is that that Christ figure who actually redeems us, who does save us. And for a human, even if you might disagree, you say, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I'm more on the community side, or I'm more on the righteous side of things, but you don't know how they were thinking at that time, and you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. But certainly oversight within organizations seems to be something that is like extremely necessary for maintaining, ethically, accountability. You need to have multiple levels of oversight within intra-organization and inter-organization.
I agree. I'm super excited to hear what this next. Thank you.
Thank you
so much, brother.
Thank you, sir, for carrying space.
I'm super excited to hear what this next gentleman has to say on it, because I just love his perspectives on things. Will you talk with us, Mr. Allen?
Oh.
Yeah, he's like surprised. you know, particularly on because in terms of, and I like to start with the question that I asked Connor, and then if you would go back to where you were in 1992 and that sort of thing, in the work to make a change, to make a difference. Well, as Connor was sharing it, what came to my mind was churches, you know, churches and pastors that have Lear jets, you know, and that whole conversation of we're taking care of the people. How are you taking care of the people if you also have a Lear jet? Well, I have to get there. And the fullness thereof being God's. What do you think when it comes to like doing good work and and like anybody else, living well, living healthy?
I was actually just speaking with my fiance about this actually just as we're on our way here. I was but in 92, I was going through schooling of those credentials that I showed you all. Graduated from this program, this ministry work.
Ballroom boy, please.
Before I graduated from high school, so I started working in one of the biggest hospitals in the world as far as graduating from high school, and it was in my heart I wanted to help people, period, and everything. Graduated at the top of classes for the dentistry stuff, also for the high schooling as well, and pretty much actually the first young black man to actually do that. And from there, one of the things that where I was wanting to help and where I thought that it would be helping was working at this hospital. But then I found out that, and this is just my opinion because I was there. A lot of hospitals are not there to help. I watched the first time I saw this black man was handcuffed, both wrists to a bed, and there was one sheriff on one side and one sheriff on the other, and he was unconscious. And I'm in there doing a clinical at the time, and there were a few other people of color, black people, in the class. And one of the professors, they saw me looking at this whole situation, and lo and behold, I hear the heart monitor flatline, and so I'm sitting there waiting. Is a nurse going to come in or anybody going to come in? Nobody ever came in, and so we're sitting here and we watched, or not. Well, we witnessed this guy die, and nobody came to help him, and that was the first time I saw that. And then also I recognized some of the medications and things that they were pumping through his veins, and a lot of tubes. It wasn't just one; it was a lot of tubes. So they purposely killed this guy. And then on top of that, I saw that in a nursing home, and where people are like, "Hey, don't take me to a nursing home, even assisted living." And I worked in some of those and saw the same thing. And the things that when you sign this agreement about their policies, you sign away the right to speak on that. And if you start talking about Western medicine in a negative way, you can almost get sued. And if you start speaking about Eastern medicine, it's like someone will come after you if you really stand up for it. And I know some people where that happened to me. And matter of fact, this is what I'm drinking. My fiance and I'm going to put this on the market at some point. And real healthy for you. Been doing it for years. Matter of fact, we love horses, but there was some of the stuff was on the market. Someone remembered me doing this, and they had a horse, and they were about to put their horse down, and it's pretty costly to have a vet to put your horse down. So they remembered this stuff, and they added a few other things to it, but that was natural. But it helped to heal their horse, and the horse is still here. And so within help, I met Mr. Bailey through a friend of ours, and I came to speak at Truce, and And I was letting the people know there too about this. And I love doing things like that with the volunteer work. And I've worked around the world doing different things. It's not just for Blacks and people of color, but all, you know. And so for me in '92, yes, I knew about all this craziness going on. So for me, I'm keeping my focus to still be able to help people. But I need to get my understanding and knowledge of that. Because a lot of people don't have the knowledge. And I don't just go from a book, but I go and check things out worldwide. Because also a lot of people, what they show here in news, if you all have to travel the world for, I say travel the world, get your own opinion. Don't have feelings about things based upon someone else's opinion. Because there are a lot of lies out there. There's some things that's happening right now with that war that is not completely true. And it's not being spoken of at all. And the thing is, it's a simple thing. Look at what is right there in front of your face and believe it. Because if somebody is showing you right there in front of your face what it is that. It's just up to you of how you take it and put your hand on something first before saying that it's hot. So you know what it feels like. You know, so that if someone does say that they'll know, you understand the type of help that you need. Everybody's not crazy. We all have to test
Not crazy. Everybody ought to know about Ken Sure-Weaver out of the Congo, how to beat poverty out like a bongo. Thomas More said, think big over 500 years ago. That's a basic income guarantee. Can't we see air and water are free? Money for wars, where's that for the poor? Bombs and tanks, put that in folks' banks. Our youth, they know the truth about thoughts and things. We're not crazy. Transform the Waldorf like Banksy. I said, good people know the truth about thoughts and things. We're not crazy. Transform the Waldorf like Banksy.
Can I speak real quick about Mr. Lawrence here?
Yeah.
Who I met him.
You.
And I was speaking with Mr. Wayne.
White Lion?
Yes.
Oh,
Huggins. And I said, man, man, I was speaking with Lawrence, and I said it was like he was having a grown person's conversation. And I said it was just like, because it was where in real time I could tell that it wasn't something that someone told him to say. And it made a lot of sense. And I was just sitting there like thinking, and then so I asked him, I said, what school did you go to? And he said, I was homeschooled. I said, oh. And so then I said, and I've said this around the world, I said, it's a difference on what you learn inside your house opposed to what you learn in school. Because I also taught, and I taught out here. And when I started teaching these students, they didn't know what I was talking about. And I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm like, and I'm looking at the books and it's like, that's not right. This, and then if you start telling them in that type of situation, you can get in trouble.
Brother, right now, there are, I think, 16 states that are prosecuting teachers that are teaching critical race theory, that are speaking, right, since the murder of George Floyd, and people saying maybe what we're learning in the classroom is a miseducation. That pushback is there really strong even after.
And on a spiritual tip with what you're saying with some of that, biblically, one of the things that I also learned is that what's there black and white or whatever color that it's written, guidance by the Holy Spirit is where you go as far as, because some of the stuff that's in the Christian version of the Bible is not correct either, by the way. Do your knowledge and you'll know, and some things in books where people say not to read actually is correct. And it's good to read those other books, even if it's on witchcraft, because you need to understand how to protect yourself or what to say out of your mouth, how to protect yourself once you're praying about something. If you don't, you can become under attack so quickly and no one can do anything for you. And a lot of times the attacks will come on you when you're by yourself. And a lot of times it's once you're most vulnerable. which that's why a lot of systems try to have you in a vulnerable place, so you don't even know who you are. So if you don't know who and whose you are, you don't know what to say, how to do, and you can forget your own name.
Were you here what Brother Khan was speaking? Just like how our words have a different context and our understanding, our meaning, we think we're saying the same thing. It's so important. Yes, Ms. Panda, we're gonna come back over there, but since we're here at Brother Lawrence, I'm sorry, Brother Lawrence, Legend just disappeared. If y'all would one more time, tell me what community looks like.
This is what community
looks like. Show me what safety looks like.
This is what safety looks like.
Show me what education looks like.
This is what education looks like.
And thank you so much for sharing. Well, when you think about fairness, do you know anything about the uprising of 1992? No, not till today. What are you hearing? What are you feeling about what you're hearing?
Speak loud, please. What was that?
Let's think about it. Something small in this important event was missed. Something small. That's our challenge. Thank you, Brother Lawrence. We're growing now. Like we're in a season where we need healthy foods and drinks, and we know that. And buildings, there's vacant lots. Brother Moses Massenberg talking with us at the Chugo's Rebel Garden about how many vacant lots where we can be growing gardens for businesses that community can produce, small businesses producing healthy things that's not being flown all over the world, all over the globe. And but we're still battling in the classroom to be taught back and forth. And so people step out, big up to the Horseshoe Gang, one of their songs saying, no school, no school. And we're not anti-school, it's like we're not anti-church, right? But an opening of the thinking process as we grow things. We want to take a moment of silence for Latasha Harlan. It was a small thing of orange juice. She had money for it. Latasha Harlan. We also want to take a moment of silence for Dr. Sebi. What's being shared here. And Nipsey Hussle. And there's a lot of stuff going right now. Like we said, Rebel Gardens at Chuco 7625 Central, on top of concrete, but just in grow beds, or Compton Garden with Dr. Sheridan Ross, or Crop Swap. I think there's a garden at WLCAC and Good Earth Garden right in Culver City. Have one of the plot owners at Good Earth Garden, Angel City Urban Farms, here with us. Really getting young people involved with water reclamation and big up to Richard Nelson. We're gonna start building pyropods all over the city. Pyropod, capture water from the atmosphere. Blue agriculture, green agriculture. Yes, that. Brother Brendan Wilson,
Sir.
Angel City Urban Farm.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. Where were you in 1992, and how are you feeling today?
I'm a native Los Angelino. I lived on the west side, and so that pent up sense of injustice was far from my experience. And at the time, I was renting a house in Venice, living with a bunch of roommates having a good time. I was a young man having a good time.
for me, it all came really quite as a surprise. The amount of anger, the amount of
Oh, you're good. You're good.
the amount of violence that just tore the city apart. It was frightening and sad, honestly. And I was surprised that it came all the way to Venice. I remember smelling burning cars and burning buildings, and everybody had their lights off in their homes all night long. And we walked out into our backyards. We listened very carefully because it was very uncomfortable, not knowing what was out there, who was lurking, and what the emotion was. It was sort of seething through the city. And on the drive over here, I remembered all of those properties that had been destroyed and how long it took people to rehabilitate them,
If at all.
if at all. Right. And I remember my feeling at the time, years later, looking at these places that were abandoned and just given up on. Thinking that's not the way this city should feel. We're a community, we're a family. How could we possibly live in a place where that's allowed to maintain and continue and not be fixed? And why aren't people getting off their asses and sweeping it up and beautifying it and pouring their hearts back into it, rehabilitating the city? That was really the essence of my experience. I was kind of disappointed with the city as a whole.
City is big. Talking about organizing and reconciliation, reparation, space and building. I wish I could remember the German term, but lives not worth lived, right? The whole idea that is the seed to eugenics. Eugenics that precedes the Holocaust. These ideas come from this state. These ideas are right up where I live, out there in Pasadena, before it gets to Germany. The amount of, we learn about the desegregation of schools in the South, but the desegregation of swimming pools in California was something atrocious. So yeah, it's like Connor said, from the outside world, this is where dreams are made. This is where characters, this is where we learn. This is where Woodrow Wilson says, you must watch Birth of a Nation as the Ku Klux Klan saves Karens from wild surge. Yeah, it's a narrative. I mean, I've heard some deep things from organizers that because we're talking about the arts, when my friend Connor was saying, like, we really have to watch for the corruption, and it's true. I didn't want to take us out there, but that's what they say cryptocurrency is all about. This opening up, and no one can be slick with it, but you can make deals, you can do agreements that are sustainable, that are good for both parties. That's outside of the system. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Earth, Wind, and Fire song, Work It Out says, get up off them corners right now, y'all. Let's slang some revolution. The system, it's a minority vote. You're as good as gold as long as you're in an institution. But we want to keep in community, because that's what safety looks like. That's what family looks like. Because Christ came to save not just you or I, but us, to a peculiar priesthood, a holy nation, a we. I see you, Sawubona. I see you, Sawubona. That's an African term. Go ahead and look at somebody, eye contact, and let them know Sawubona. I see you, what's going on?
I see you.
Yeah, I respect what you're doing.
And Ubuntu. I am because You are.
I am because you are because I am. And we are at 5 Point Youth Foundation. And so, if Christina, that is my daddy. Tell us where you were in 1992, and what did you think about what's been happening, what's been done well since the rebellion? Again, I want to big up the gang Truce and police reform. Let's keep pushing it forward.
And introduce yourself, please, loudly enough so I can hear you.
I'm Christina.
Yes.
Elementary school. So I remember seeing like that on TV, but also haven't really experienced that.
I need your ballroom voice.
Okay. Living in Lancaster is different. Back then it was different because there wasn't a lot of us back then. So it didn't feel weird because I kind of grew up in it. But like I said, later on, I started to feel the tension of, being who I am and being different than others in that community.
Are there more people of color in Lancaster now?
Yes.
A lot more
so.
than when you were 8?
Yes. Yes, very much so. So the atmosphere from then to now is different. There's less, but still, it's kind of undercover. Like, it's there, but you can either ignore it or dive into the tension. The
more black people try to come to Lancaster.
right. There's more looks of okay, why are you here? But at the same time, there's still some work that needs to be done.
Yep.
Healing. And
That's good.
thank
That's good. That's that. We definitely want to honor the space with some rhythm, playing together, joining together in solidarity and song. But before we do, like we said, we're at 5 Point Youth Foundation. We do have the president of 5 Point Youth Foundation right here with us. So without further ado, Brother Andrew Williams, Ambassador Andrew Williams, if y'all would talk about that. He works so hard connecting folks and making sure that the history is told. Thank you for your transparency, for your love, brother. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you all, and welcome to 5 Points Youth Foundation. Thank you. And just to let you know, in addition to what Sir Bailey is recording and streaming, I'm also streaming to our Facebook page for what used to be the Encounter Think Tank. And we all are related to that directly or indirectly. That was started by Professor Marcela Oliva. And the intent was to have the community to come into the classroom and the businesses to come into the classrooms. So she created what's called the Encounter Think Tank at the Architectural and Environmental Design Department of Los Angeles State Technical College. So we are all part, directly or indirectly, of the Community Think Tank and Advisory Board. Marina was one of the people that was here in 2016 that helped to design different concepts of what we could reimagine death alleys to be.
Yes.
We were actually written up in the Los Angeles Times, among other places. And we did have the honor of actually honoring the founder of 5 Points Youth Foundation. She was known as Diane E. Watson, and she's still here. She's still with us. And that was in 1984, just after the Los Angeles Olympics in '84. Originally, it was the Diane E. Watson Semi-Pro Sports Authority. And the idea was to engage youth in sports. Of course, she went on to become not just part of the Board of Education, but a local politician in the city council, and then a state senator, and then a congressperson, and Karen Bass stepped in as her successor. So technically what we're doing here is upholding that legacy. But if you go to our website, and that's 5 Points Youth Foundation, all spelled out, you'll find that the very concepts you've been describing here are ones that we have included in our mission statement. I've been involved with 5 Points since 1989. By one of the directors, the gentleman that just came up a little while ago, you might have seen him, Ron Wilkinson, was one of the original directors, as was Vanessa Kane, who is the owner of the property that we're at, and the director, the treasurer, that makes available this open space here for the community to have safe passage. And Sir Bailey knows quite well that it was some of the people that started the 1992 gang Truce that were part of what later happened in 2016. And that was called United Hood Nation. When you had Snoop Dogg, you had the game go to the mayor and to the police chief, and they all rallied around 3,000 of us at Vermont and 81st at the Scientology Community Center. And we re-established that commitment to our community. So this place is the West Coast Organizing Committee for the Universal Hip Hop Museum, of which Sir Bailey is on the educational committee, and which every year comes out and brings artists from around the world to create this graffiti alley that you see here. So this is one of those places that's a safe passage. Where I live is actually in the heart of what Sir Bailey was talking about earlier, Death Alley. That's between us on Vermont, between Imperial and Manchester. But of course, the community calls it Death Valley, because it's not just that street, it's the entire community, it's where we are. So we actually had Professor Marcella Oliva and others to reimagine Death Alleys. And we have artwork here that commemorates that. But what we're saying to you is that it's up to us to be the change we want to see. Unless our children here know what the Sustainable Development Goals are, it's going to be very hard to get them involved on a global scale, you know that we're all in this together. And when you know that the Sustainable Development Goals are only the second phase of a 1,000-year plan, the Millennium Development Goals that was founded by Secretary General Kofi Annan, who was at that time the only first sub-Saharan African to step into that role. That's very relevant to us here. It was just last August 2nd of last year that there was formed the United Nations Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. So the intent is to let our children know that just because they were born here doesn't mean this is all there is in the world. And I have to credit homeschooling, because I was taught at 10 years old that the continent that we now call Africa is a recent idea. The people on the continent call themselves Alkebulans. So it's critically important that we have the understanding that we are all connected together in one family, no matter where we come from now, we all come from one blood. So if you go to our website, 5pointsyouthfoundation.com, you'll find that we talk about more than just the Sustainable Development Goals. Because think about it, this is only a 15-year shot. What comes next? And in 2012, the Mayans predicted not that the Earth would end, but that the Earth as we know it would end. That came true. We are in an extinct level event horizon. So the climate chaos that's happening right now is critically impacting all of us. And the health pandemic is only preceding a hunger pandemic that'll be exacerbated by the climate pandemic. So our growing our food locally is how this place got started. The first thing we did here, well, we moved here in 2012. However, this entire alley was filled with debris. It was filled with animals. It was filled with people doing things. So it took 8 weeks for students from the Loyola Marymount University and people here, volunteers here, took 8 weeks to clean this, just to get the pavement clean. But then the idea was, let's beautify what we have here. So this is only one of 5,000 alleys that were shut down during and after the 1992 riots. It was a crack epidemic. And that's where this Death Alleys came from, because these are alleys that were blocked off. So what we're trying to do is revitalize our areas. We're not confused. The Olympics are coming, but unless we plan now for the Olympics in, we'll be looking back and say, well, what happened? So we're asking you to go to 5pointsyouthfoundation.org, and you'll have a contact us. Decide how you want to use this space. We have what's called Safe Passage by Brad Carson, who's the president of now the United Hood Nation, who's also a member of our Encounter think tank. What Safe Passage means is this. As I said, I'm at Imperial in Vermont. There are 135 different different gangs between LEX and Nickerson Gardens. So we're halfway between. The whole idea about the United Hood Nation is based off the gang truce they had in 1992. They used Ralph Bunche's plan to solve the Israeli and the Arab controversy. That's when he gained he was the first African-American to get Nobel Peace Prize, because he actually wrote up a peace treaty between the Israelis and the Arabs. That's the basis of what they use with Daoud Sharil, who's been here and received an award right here. He used that text to help create the gang truce that's lasted up until now. So we're taking a page out of that book. There's something called, again, the United Nations Global Compact. That was founded as a companion to the United Nations. You'll find that Kofi Annan was the founder of that. The idea was this, and he spoke from lived experience. There were corporations from the United States, from Europe, from Asia, that were having their manufacturing and mining activities happening in African villages that poison the water, that poison the air, that kill the people. And so the concept was that let's have a corporate social responsibility commitment by these businesses to publish publicly what they plan to do to address 4 major areas: human rights, labor, and the environment. That's 3. The 4th was added in 2004, which is anti-corruption and transparency. So we are taking a page out of that book. So when I became president of 5 Points Youth Foundation on November 7th of 2014, 30 years after it was founded, the first act I did was to join the United Nations Global Compact. We made a 5-year commitment to expand awareness about the United Nations Global Compact. We did that using this device right here. We were able to get over 100 Goodwill ambassadors around the world to help raise awareness. We had 55,000 unique social media hits, because we understand data is important. You have to define what it is you're doing. That's again relevant here.
Oh, I just wanted to say something to that.
Yes.
Thank you to Lynn Crandall. And again, thank you to the community of it, you sharing it with us and taking it into the youth-built charter schools of California and homeschool environments that would receive the information as curriculum and then be able to share it with their parents to get involved with neighborhood councils. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to turn it back over to somebody else, because I can do this all day.